Alright, what's up everyone? So if you clicked on this video, you want to learn how to maximize your testosterone naturally, of course. We're going to not use any steroids and I'll teach you all the secrets. So why is testosterone so important? A lot of people think that testosterone is just you injecting steroids, but no, you actually make this hormone inside your body. So as a man, it's important to maximize your levels as much as possible. Testosterone affects men's reproduction. It affects the quality of your sperm, bone density. It affects your mood. So most people that suffer with depression usually have low testosterone. So it also affects your cardiovascular health, your sleep. It affects your sleep quality and obviously your libido. It's not just to be jacked. When you tell people you want to improve your testosterone, they think that you're just some raging bodybuilder like, yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's an essential hormone. The same way that estrogen is so important for women, testosterone is very important in men and could prevent things such as suicide from depression. So it's a topic to be taken seriously. So how are we going to improve our testosterone naturally? Don't worry, I got you. So it all starts in good sleep. So there's a lot of mechanisms that sleep improves testosterone in. One is that it lowers cortisol. And cortisol is the body's stress hormone. So when you're stressed out, cortisol is usually spiked up. It's usually lowest around 2 a.m. when you're sleeping. And the reason why you don't want to have high cortisol levels is because cortisol is basically an antagonist to testosterone. And it's also very detrimental to the body. It eats up a lot of vitamins and minerals in the body because of stress. So you want to try to reduce cortisol as much as possible. Obviously not so low that you're like a monk and you don't have any motivation to do anything. Some stress is good. Like when you're going to the gym, your cortisol is naturally raised. So sleep helps decrease your cortisol. Also, it helps improve insulin sensitivity. If you're not that sensitive to insulin and you have an insulin spike every time you eat, this will inevitably decrease your testosterone. And lastly, testosterone is literally made while you're going to sleep. Mostly in the deep sleep cycles. It's produced in your testes. So if you don't get enough sleep, you don't have enough time to produce the testosterone that you need. Next is body fat. So you'd want to stay around 10 to 15% body fat. If you go too low, your body won't have enough fat to produce testosterone. And if you go too high, a lot of things could happen, such as insulin resistance. As we learned before, that if you become too insulin insensitive, this could negatively affect your testosterone. Next is that body fat increases oxidative stress across the whole body, specifically in the Leydig cells. So Leydig cells are cells that we have in our testicles, and for women they have in their ovaries, and these are responsible for producing hormones. So obviously the more stress that you have on these cells, the less testosterone you could produce. And lastly, the more body fat you have, the more aromatase you have. And aromatase aromatizes, which means it changes testosterone to estrogen. This is why you see in some people when they're at a high body fat, they begin to start developing breasts and they become more emotional, other symptoms like this. This is because they have a lot more aromatase in their body and they're more estrogenic. But as I mentioned earlier, don't get too lean, because this will inevitably decrease your testosterone. And the reason why this guy is at this percent body fat and has muscle is because he's on steroids. Most people that you see shredded and muscular at the same time on Instagram are on steroids. Don't kid yourself. I'm not being a hater. This is just true. If you're at a very low body fat, it's going to be pretty hard to gain muscle. If you want to see an example of what natural bodybuilding looks like, this is what it's going to look like. This man most likely has low testosterone at this moment, but he does have a decent amount of muscle, but he's not huge like this guy right here. This is what natural bodybuilding looks like. Next, this one is key: vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Most guys have low testosterone is because they're lacking in vitamins and minerals. Particularly the most important ones are zinc, There has been studies that show that people that are zinc insufficient, and as soon as they become zinc sufficient, that means that they have enough zinc in their body, their testosterone nearly triples. There have been a lot of studies conducted on this. And in terms of vitamins, vitamin D is one of the most important vitamins for testosterone. And as you can see right here through this diagram, these are the foods that you could get your zinc and vitamin D from. Luckily, some of these foods have both, such as eggs have vitamin D and some zinc, salmon, your red meat, mushrooms. I would avoid cheeses, but you get the gist. So make sure to take a blood panel to see what you're deficient in. And so make sure to go to the doctor and get a blood panel to see what you're deficient in. And if you are deficient in anything, you could either supplement or eat the right foods, which is better because it's more bioavailable compared to supplements. Next is stress. So stress affects the body in so many ways, but one of the ways that it affects the body is that it decreases testosterone. As we mentioned earlier, cortisol is the stress hormone that is released in your body when you're very stressed. And there's a lot of mechanisms in which it decreases testosterone. One, it inhibits GnRH, which is gonadotropin releasing hormone. This hormone is obviously released from your gonads, and it helps produce testosterone, such as luteinizing hormone. So luteinizing hormone is produced in your pituitary gland, and excess cortisol inhibits the production of this, resulting in low testosterone. And lastly, it increases sex hormone binding globulin. So basically, you don't want this to be increased. The reason being is sex hormone binding globulin, it binds to testosterone and it decreases testosterone as is being bound to it, specifically free testosterone, which is a testosterone in your body that you're able to use. There's total testosterone, which is how much testosterone you have in the body total, and free testosterone. Free testosterone is what your body could use as testosterone. So you know all the downsides of cortisol. So the way to fix it is obviously exercise. When you exercise, you release endorphins, which helps lower cortisol. Then second, there's no studies to back this up, but in my opinion, anxiety and stress is just pent-up energy. In my experiences, when you have a lot of pent-up energy, this is when you're more stressed out. This is why I think people in solitary confinement go crazy, is because they're just locked up in a room and they don't have any means to expend their energy. Well, obviously they could do push-ups inside of their cell, but just try to exercise and do physical work to get rid of your cortisol and extra pent-up energy. Alright, next is to go out in the sun. So there's a lot of studies that show that sun exposure increases testosterone, and this is done by a lot of reasons. As we mentioned before, vitamin D is super important for testosterone, and guess what gives you vitamin D? You guessed it, the sun. And look at that, it also helps decrease cortisol. So as I mentioned before, cortisol helps lower testosterone, and it also triggers serotonin. Serotonin is helpful for being in a good mood, and it also helps regulate your circadian rhythm. So your circadian rhythm is basically your internal clock that tells you, hey, it's morning time. So when you wake up and when you go out in the sun, you're basically telling your body, hey, it's morning time, it's time to get things done. And then when the sun comes down, your body will start producing melatonin and you'll be able to go to sleep easier. And when you go to sleep easier, what does that help? You guessed it, testosterone. So I start noticing one thing helps another, and it's all a combination of different factors that help increase it. So you want to start getting small points on the board, and together it will be a big impact. Just whatever you do, make sure you don't get sunburnt. So make sure to wear a natural sunscreen. I've made a video on how to make your natural sunscreen at home. Because when you get sunburnt, you're exposing your body to a lot of UV radiation, and this could cause skin cancer. Next is to make sure you consume fat. It's kind of ironic that a lot of body fat decreases testosterone, but you actually need dietary fat in your diet for optimal testosterone levels. The surefire way to dietarily castrate yourself is by limiting the amount of fat that you consume. The reason being is because cholesterol is found in fat. And cholesterol is a precursor to testosterone. cholesterol is needed to synthesize testosterone in your testes. And you also need a group of saturated, monounsaturated, and polyunsaturated fats. So this you could find from avocado, fish, olive oil, nuts and seeds, and eggs are an amazing source of dietary fat. Plus it has some cholesterol and it has a lot of vitamins and minerals as well, which help produce testosterone. And that's it. I wanted to keep this video short and sweet. So if you learned a thing or two, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting a lot more often.